Hello, friends, and welcome back to The Mothers. I'm your host, Sarah Brown. This podcast, thanks entirely to the tremendous leaders, creators, thinkers we've had as guests, touches on so many important themes: identity, purpose, ambition. I'm still so caught up on that word, career, motherhood. But at the root of all those things is trying to figure out what we really want. It's a simple concept, honestly, but can be so elusive, especially for women. There are so many messages telling us what to want, it can be hard to hear ourselves think. And we are, to speak in horrible generalizations, often quite other-oriented, which may very well be something we're conditioned to be. I often think of an anecdote from Glennon Doyle's Untamed, where she describes what happens when you ask a room of teenage girls if they're hungry. They don't answer back. They look around to see what everyone else is thinking. They check their own hunger against whether anyone else is hungry. We want the group to be happy, even if it means we don't get what we want, or go hungry. But if this podcast has taught me anything, a woman that knows what she wants is a damn powerful thing. And you know what comes before knowing what you want? Not knowing. And that is where I wanted to start with our guest this week, Ruthie Ackerman, author of the memoir, The Mother Code, which follows her experience wrestling with whether she wanted to have kids and, ultimately, how. Ruthie seems to have always known she wanted to write, and so she's found a way to do it. At the New York Times and Forbes, and now is a successful freelancer for low-key publications like Vogue, Glamour, The Atlantic, The Wall Street Journal, among many others. And now she's a published author. Ruthie is also the founder of Ignite Writers Collective, which allows her to work with writers in all stages of their careers, helping them improve their craft, get published, get book deals, helping them write. What was less clear to Ruthie, for many reasons I won't spoil here, is whether she ever wanted to have kids. What would happen to Ruthie the writer if she became Ruthie the mother? Could she do both? Could she be both? Could she maintain her creative spark and also sit on a playroom floor singing mind-numbing kid songs? Could she be happy? In her book and in our interview, Ruthie beautifully lays bare the conundrum and line of thinking that is so absolutely common among women and young people today. In a world that's increasingly hostile toward those with children, whether we get existential and think about our not-so-slow walk toward an inhospitable planet, or if we keep it local and think about how outrageously expensive it is to pay for childcare, or somewhere in between and think about the self-sacrificial model of motherhood, where the human that was ceases to exist once they have kids. Does it even make sense to have children? Ruthie was so fun to talk to, and if you listen to the end, you'll understand exactly why. I'm so grateful she joined us and was brave enough to share her unfiltered thoughts on the page, and now with me in this interview. I'm so excited for you to hear this conversation and to sit more comfortably with uncertainty, knowing that your true wants are waiting to be discovered on the other side. So please enjoy my conversation with Ruthie Ackerman. So how am I finding you? How's your week so far? How's your Tuesday?
My Tuesday's going all right. Not too bad. I'm really glad we're doing this. I feel like this was a long time coming. And
Oh my
I'm glad
God.
we
Yes.
made it
Yes. And thank you for your patience as we were scrambling and figuring out what we were doing. You know, we're all just making this up as we
Yeah.
go.
Totally. That's kind of what my
Yep.
book's about.
Yep. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. Before we get too far, logistically, technically, do you hear me? Am I loud, too soft? I hear
you. You
okay,
seem
great. You
good. Do
seem
I
great.
seem good?
Yes.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, welcome to the Mothers, Ruthie. It's awesome to meet you.
So good to meet you. This is
Yes,
so
thank you for
fun.
doing this. As you may know, I'll record a separate introduction, but what I really love to do, which is slightly selfish, but also I find a nice entry point to the conversation, is we give our guests a chance to share their story of how they reach where they are today. I recognize, obviously, you wrote a good portion of your story through the Mother Code. It's certainly very oriented and weighted towards the mothering experience, becoming a mother, having kids, etc., which we will absolutely get into. But given an opportunity with a blank slate, is that how you would tell your story? Or how would you tell the story of Ruthie in this moment?
Wow. I mean, there's so many entry points
For
into
sure.
this story as always. But what I will say is this, that I always knew I wanted to be a writer. I always knew I wanted to write
Yeah.
a book,
Yeah.
but I didn't know exactly what the story was gonna be. So at one point, I thought that I was gonna be writing this book about my relationship with my mom,
Hmm.
and sort of our own, ancestral history, our intergenerational trauma, and how that
Yeah.
impacted my life. I mean,
Yeah.
small little story about, not too
Some
many heavy.
significant trauma.
Yeah.
No, it seems hard. It was hard from what I could gather from your story, at least.
Yes, yes. So I was gonna write that book, and then I was gonna write a book about my brother, who I talk about in the book, who has a triple
Yeah.
whammy of rare genetic disorders, and I was his legal guardian for a long time. So that was gonna sort of be the framework of the book, and then I was gonna write about my divorce, which I didn't know, but now divorce memoirs are like the thing. But I didn't know that back then that I was gonna
Yeah.
be on trend. And then I decided to write, this book, The Mother Code, about my own quest to figure out whether I should have a child or not.
Hmm.
And I had thought, I think the biggest point that I wanna make right now is that I had thought that there was something wrong with me. It seemed like everyone around me knew that they wanted to be a mom or knew that they didn't wanna be a mom, but I was
Hmm.
one of these on the fencers, as we're now called.
Yeah.
And I had no clue, and I thought that meant there was something wrong with me. And so this book was really about trying to figure out whether I was normal
Hmm.
and also there just wasn't a book like this of someone's personal story out there. And so I wish someone else had written it, so I decided to write it myself.
Yeah. Yeah. How did you know you always wanted to be a writer? Because that was very there. I come from this on the other side where my great question is, what the heck should I be when I grow up? Being a mother was never actually like on a list of choices. It was sort of something that I knew that I would get taller from when I was 10. I sort of assumed that like I'll probably maybe have kids. Not a choice, not a not choice, whatever. But I'm curious about the professional like being a writer was a thing. At least it seemed very clear in the book from the beginning for you. How were you so lucky?
Yeah. Well, I don't think I thought that writing was a career. I'm still not sure it is a
Yeah.
career, to
Yeah.
be honest.
You're making it as much as anyone can, but yeah.
I guess as much as you can. Yeah, like piecing like any kind of freelancer, right? Piecing
Yeah.
together a bunch of things. But yeah, I mean, if we want to go way back in middle school, I won an award for a poem I wrote.
Right. Right. Yes.
So
Yes.
I think that I thought like, okay, maybe maybe I'm good at this thing. But I
Yeah.
also didn't know how to like make that into a job.
Mhm.
And in undergrad, I mean, I kind of like looked around me growing up, and maybe you might be a little younger than me, but maybe you had the same experience. It's like I thought you could be like a teacher. Maybe my stepmom was an accountant, so that was a thing
Mhm.
that like, you
Mhm.
know, I thought maybe was possible, a doctor, a lawyer, but I didn't know any writers.
Yep.
So that wasn't really a thing. And then so I studied psychology in undergrad, which is the most like, I don't know, middle of the road kind of nothing.
That's
Nothing
fascinating.
thing
Go
you
yeah.
can study it means like 0. And then after undergrad, I went to art school for a few years. I traveled, but I was always writing for myself. And
Mhm.
then I wrote about this a little bit in my book. I was traveling, backpacking throughout Southern and East
Yeah.
Africa, and I found this little internet cafe because we didn't have internets, like, on our phone. There were no
Mhm.
cell phones, or
I
I didn't
remember
have
those
one.
cafes for sure. Yes. Yes.
And my sister's like my younger sister, by the way, who's 5 years
Mhm.
younger than me, was like, "What are you doing with your life?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Maybe I should apply to grad school for
Mhm.
journalism." And that was the first time I thought about writing as a career
Yeah.
or a real calling
Mhm.
was back then when I was sitting in that internet cafe. It was just something I did for fun before that.
Yeah. Yeah. I have to say, I don't know what this means. Both of my parents are writers, and yet I still had this feeling that is this really a career? So I had the examples. And even then, it seemed like not something that's the same as becoming a dentist or becoming a lawyer or an accountant. Um, yeah, that's really interesting. Um, okay, so you get into throughout the story, throughout what you've written and what you're describing. One thing that I noticed a lot in the Mother Code was a lot of mentions of what we quote unquote are told, what I was told, what women are told, what mothers are told, um, and really trying to wrestle with who are you, what do you want, what is your inner voice versus what there's so many messages that seem to be thrown at women and mothers. And I'm curious if it's worse for us or if it's just we have that experience so it feels louder for us. But how did you move through that process and try to stop listening to those in the same way and hear your own voice, if that's even the goal and if that's even where we've landed? Because I think those messages, those voices don't go away, but it struck me, it was a repeated phrase throughout, kind of sprinkled in this idea of we are told X. How did you grapple with that?
Yeah. I mean, so in writing the book, that was one of the discoveries that I didn't realize until I was in the writing on the page, was that I had no idea what my deepest desires were. I had no
Mm-hmm.
idea what my inner voice was trying to tell me. So as I was writing about not being sure that I wanted to be a mother and sort of all the things that happened along that path, I was remembering that people were asking me, people meaning friends, family, my therapist,
Mm-hmm.
my ex-husband, spoiler alert,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
everyone's asking me like, "Do you want a child? And if you do, how much do you want a child?" And all of these questions that I couldn't answer. And as I
Yeah.
was writing, I was trying to figure out, like, did I did I know what I wanted, but I wasn't telling myself what I wanted because I was scared? Did I not know what I wanted? And if I didn't know what I wanted, why? Like,
Yeah.
I was just really grappling with that on the page. And what I figured out was that we're so used to, especially as women, all humans, I'll say,
Yeah.
but especially as women, we're taught to contort ourselves, we're taught to people please. And I had become so pretzeled in my marriage, in my life, that I couldn't tell you, like, which way was up and which was down. Did I want
Yeah.
a child? Did I not want a child? Did I think I wanted a child because I was supposed to have a child? It
Yeah.
was all so crazy making.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you find where do you think this pretzeling comes from for you? I mean, I know there's a complicated relationship with your mother and grandmother and great grandmother. I'm curious where, if I'm sure there are many places, but where does the
Oh,
pretzeling superpower come from or instinct?
yeah. I mean, I didn't think it was a superpower. I wonder if it is a superpower, but I think part of it was growing up as the oldest child, the
Mm-hmm.
only daughter on
The
my
eldest daughter.
the
So
eldest.
trendy right now.
I know. And having a brother that had such a so many complications, and I think I wanted to be the sort of good girl, the easy one, because my mom had so much she was already dealing with. So I think that was a piece of it. My parents were
Yeah.
divorced, and I
Yeah.
think a part of the pretzeling was wanting to feel lovable and loved, once they went off and kind of started these 2 other families.
Yeah.
And I was the only child between them, so I was sort of, like, shuttled around, so I think that was part of it. I think part of the pretzeling is just also being a young woman and the
Mm-hmm.
way, like, I judged and valued myself by how men saw me,
Yeah.
how men treated me, and, yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
so complicated.
Yeah. It's interesting. And I appreciate you saying all this out loud and writing it out loud, obviously, because you're someone who also presents as very, I don't know you intimately yet, but seeming self assured, confident, I will ask for and get what I want. And yet also wants to be admired. I think it was Adrian Rich who we were quoting, to be asked, to be wanted, to be courted. And I identify with that model of someone who I'm totally independent. I need nothing. I don't want to rely on anybody. And yet Wouldn't it be nice if someone came up and said, "You're beautiful and I love you just the way you are." And trying to grapple with, like, does that negate the other side of me that is independent and self-assured and a strong feminist, whatever version of that word we want to pick. And I feel like you live in that on both sides of that. Or I don't know if do you feel like you live now in a integrated way around that stuff, or is it full out? Are we separated?
We're always trying to figure out whether we're worthy or
Yeah.
whether we're valuable, whether we're lovable. I feel like that is the human condition. And
Mm.
sometimes I shy away from that because it feels so cliche. Like,
Yeah.
to be a 48-year-old woman still thinking about, like, am I lovable? That sounds
Oh,
sad. It's kind of
that's
depressing.
probably true.
But
Yeah.
it's true. We all wanna know that. We all want to feel that way, and we're told we have to love ourselves first before anyone else can love us, but it's a chicken
Right.
egg. I mean, it's really hard to figure that out because we are, at least partially a reflection of how others see us.
Yep.
So, we look outside of ourselves for that kind of validation, and I think
Hmm.
that's all humans do that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I also want to say, armchair therapist, that I think that the relationship that we have with our parents is foundational in this. And if we feel reflected back by our parents authentically, that maybe the yearning is a little different as you grow up a little bit. Just from people that I've seen, my own experience not really having that in the same way and kind of recovering that. It's something I've been thinking about a lot.
yeah, I think that's
So,
really true, and
yeah.
I'll say this, my parents had me when they were 22 and 23. I think about that a lot.
Oh, I
Like,
didn't realize they were so young. Okay.
so
Yeah.
young when they had me, and so I think about, like, where were they trained, so to speak, on how to be
Hmm.
good parents, and where did they get validated and
Totally.
feel loved, and how did that translate into the way they parented, and so it's a
Totally.
cycle. I mean, we talk about
No.
cycle breakers now, which is sort of another on-trend topic,
Yes.
but yeah, it's, like, really hard to grow out of that or come out from underneath that.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing, and I was looking around on the internet, there was some, I think, some commentary you had about, yes, the story is about, motherhood and becoming a mother and ambivalence around that whole experience. And it's also a love story.
Right.
And I did related to this identity piece and kind of moving through the world and understanding who you are versus who you feel you should be. I personally observed when Rob entered the story, there was not necessarily because of Rob, but around that same time, you kind of moved into Ruthie and what Ruthie wants and needs and feels in a way that felt very. I felt like in the earlier part of the book, there was a lot of railing against and sort of fear, frustration, anger, disappointment, entitlement in a way that, but you couldn't quite know where it was coming from. Like you deserved things, but weren't sure why you didn't have them or something. But I felt like with Rob, there was a little bit of like, like a little taking of a breath. And I don't know if that was true. And I think about it related to identity, which is an ongoing theme for this podcast. And it can come through the lens of motherhood, which we will talk about. But also finding yourself through partnership with others and relationships. Is that how would you am I saying thing am I putting words in your mouth or on the page? Would you say similar things?
Yeah, I think that I felt like I didn't have any choice in that moment but to, kinda stand on my own 2 feet, rely on my
Mm,
own voice, put myself out there in a way, like a risk-taking kind of way that I hadn't before. At that
mhm,
point in the story, both in real life and on the page, I am divorced from my first husband who
right.
adamantly didn't want a child.
Yeah.
I had been dating someone for 6 months who ultimately died by suicide,
Mhm.
and that sort of threw me for a loop. So within, I mean, to say the least, that threw me
Yes.
for a
Oh,
loop.
yeah, yeah.
Um, so within a year, I'm a 38-year-old woman, with a divorce under my belt and a dead boyfriend, and
Mhm.
now, like, less than 6 months after my boyfriend died, I'm meeting Rob. And
Yeah.
so, 1, I didn't kind of have it in me emotionally to perform in the ways that I had before. And two, I knew that if I wanted a relationship that I guess, how would I say this? If I wanted the things, if I finally wanted to create the life I wanted for myself, I
Mhm.
needed to just straight up say, like, this is what I'm looking for. I want
Mhm.
the real deal. I want to have a child. I'm 38 years old. Like, let's go.
Yeah, yeah. And I got very lucky, or as you would, I
Mm.
think you use the term luck in your book a lot. I was lucky in that I was, for whatever reason, met my husband, who I deeply love and is, the guy for me. Met him off the internet, early days at a bar, like the old school story. And it all kind of, it certainly didn't feel like it was going to work out until we met. Um, but I know that this experience of both wanting to build a career, meet someone, have a relationship, and TBD, potentially have kids. And once you decide you want to have kids, that creates this whole clock. And real time pressure of like, we can't just casually fall in love. We have to do so on a timeline. Um, and you navigated that, and it's hard because it means you have to be bullish on things that you otherwise would love to take your time doing. And I know you're not alone in dealing with this. It also feels like a very, very New York, Brooklyn experience of all my friends. I feel like it happens most there. I'm sure that's not true. Um, but how are people dealing with that? Because I do think these are things that are coming to a head, and whether you're freezing eggs ahead of time, which is an imperfect solve too. Like, what are you seeing of how people are kind of navigating both this tension between wanting to be patient and thoughtful and caring and empathetic towards others, but also I need to do this now. What happens? How do we do it?
I mean, I think this is a problem that has not been solved. I mean, I talk about my great
Mhm.
grandmother, I talk about my grandmother, I talk about my mother, I talk about me. All these generations have had to figure out how to navigate self actualization and
Yes.
motherhood if you're going to decide to have a child. There's no
Mhm.
way around the kind of biology of that. Science has helped. And one of the things I talk about, because I froze my eggs when I was 35, when I was in my
Mhm.
first marriage, and one of the things I talk about is how um, I foolishly, in retrospect, thought that was some sort of guarantee, that was some sort of insurance policy that I could actually freeze time. I thought that I was
Mm.
freezing time so that I can make the decisions about who I wanted to be in the world, what my career could look like, what my marriage could look like.
Yeah.
And ultimately, when I was ready to go back and thaw those eggs and use them, none of them worked.
Mhm.
And I think, like, so the science is there now in ways that obviously it wasn't there in previous generations, but the science is still really new. And so we don't have the runway that we wish we had, when it comes to making these decisions. And what are people doing? I think that people are freezing their eggs, no matter how imperfect the science is. They
Mhm.
are making decisions to have children on their own. And I have a number of friends who have made that decision. And in the book, I grapple with whether to try to find a partner or to have a child on my own. And I've said this in other interviews that the timeline in this book was 10 years ago. And
Mhm.
if I was making that decision now, I think I probably would have chosen to have a child on my own because I'm seeing so much more of that out in the world.
Mm.
There's Instagram communities and other places
Mhm.
where it's just more visible. So I do have so many friends who are making that decision. There's many options and we're talking about it more. And then there's the decision to just not have children at all. And we're seeing
Mhm.
so many more communities pop up around that as well. Um,
Yes.
so all
Yes.
these options are just more out there.
Yeah, yeah. Would you categorize these folks as outlaw mothers? I loved this term. Yeah.
Yeah, I absolutely think so. And so,
Mhm.
chapter 10 in my book is called Outlaw Motherhood, and it really was a turning point for the book because the first part of the book, the first half of the book was really, should I have a child or should I not have a child? And then at that point in the book, I started to think about, okay, if I did have a child, would there be a way to have a child while, like in a radical way, in a revolutionary way, in contrast to the way society shows us mothers are supposed to be? And so
Mm-hmm.
I went on this kind of literary quest where I started reading every book I can get my hands on to try to figure out how did other women, like Toni Morrison, for example, Barbara Ehrenreich, how did other women I admired and respect figure out how to hold on to their dreams and also become mothers?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, that's my favorite chapter of the book too.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I was gonna ask about role models because it did feel like throughout the majority of the book there was a lot of looking up. They're certainly looking to your own mother, but then also kind of looking up to, just as you said, these icons of the writers who did or did not have children and how that went. And a lot of them, it seemed like early days, the takeaway for you was doesn't go well, doesn't exist. After you had kids, after you had Clementine, I sensed that there was a little bit more of kind of looking around instead of necessarily up, and seeing around you. There are these examples of people building their own way to a full experience on all sides of life, their Venn diagram, which we'll talk about too. But um, is that a fair arc? And what do you make of that shift?
Yeah. I think that so much of life is about self-fulfilling prophecies in a way. Like,
Mm,
I believed when I was in my, let's say, 20s and early 30s that it wasn't possible to be a mother and be anything else. And
right.
so I found examples of that. And
Mm,
um
confirmation bias. Yes.
confirmation bias. Right? So, I found examples of that, whether people who had children and Sexton, Sylvia Plath, and it didn't end well for either of them,
Yes.
or
Yes.
people who didn't
Yes.
have children. And as I got older and as I started, talking to other people outside of, by the way, I interviewed like um researchers, geneticists, all kinds of doctors. I interviewed like friends of friends, like asking people like about their own decisions about
Mm,
why and when and how they went about having children. So
mm-hmm.
once I started kind of expanding my network, let's call it,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I started to find all kinds of stories out there
Yeah.
that were completely different than anything that I'd ever like seen or had modeled for me before.
Yeah.
So
I
that,
think that's so powerful. And I think that one of the things, it's hard to be human, whatever version of sexuality, gender you are. I think that for women and mothers, the examples are so few, and they're increasing. And I think social media has created a lot of bad things, but also makes it easier to share more examples. But it's sort of like you have 5 success stories of what it is, or how it is to live a life as a woman, and they're all like the success stories reach like the highest levels of success, and therefore it means that if you haven't reached that or achieved that your life, you haven't you aren't enough. And I think the power of filling out the buffet of stories that women can follow or reflect on is so important, because otherwise it leaves us feeling like we failed, when in fact there's, as you're saying, if we look around, there are way more stories of doing this differently. We just haven't had enough time to make them into a Hollywood movie.
exactly. And that's actually what the title, The Mother Code, came to represent. At the
Oh,
beginning,
tell me. Yeah.
I always had that title, The Mother Code.
Mm-hmm.
Beginning, it was supposed to represent the flaw in my DNA that I thought existed,
Mm-hmm.
that made my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mom all abandon their children in one way or another. And so
Mm-hmm.
I thought that I was living with this, flaw in my genetic code, which is what I called the
Mm-hmm.
mother code. But by the end of the book and the end of my research and the end of my kind of narrative arc, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that there are as many stories about motherhood and non-motherhood as there are people. And so
Mm-hmm.
the mother code came to represent that kind of array and diversity of stories, not just the binaries were shown by, the patriarchy, we'll call it.
Right. Yes.
And goes in charge.
Yes.
We'll
Yes.
call it, of like the trad wife versus the childless cat lady. But really, all of these like very nuanced stories that each of us have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so now you're doing it. Can you be a mother and a writer? And what does it take?
Well, I mean, what I think is, yes. I mean, you absolutely can be a mother and anything else that you wanna be.
Mm.
But obviously, there are a lot of pieces to that. There are systemic things, there are very personal things, and for me, like, the first step to being a mother was realizing that I was allowed to give myself permission to do other things outside of mothering. And so, and that's not to say that there isn't the like guilt that's kind of always there, because whenever you're doing one thing, you feel guilty you're not doing the other. That exists
Mhm.
for sure. So like when I've been traveling for book tour and I feel guilty that I'm not home with my daughter, and when I'm with my daughter,
Yeah.
I'm not writing my book or writing whatever, or making money or whatever the things are. But
Mhm.
give trying my best to give myself permission and say to myself, you are allowed to be a self-actualized human and be a mother, was sort of the first step in trying to do that thing.
Mhm.
And I'm
Yeah.
not succeeding all the time, but I think trying is half the battle, as they say.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Who are you asking permission from? Who do you need to allow you?
I know, myself, my,
Yeah.
like, inner self, but I think, like, I wonder if I'm going to mess up and my daughter's going to resent me. I wonder if I'm going to, like, on my deathbed, look back and say I spent time on things that weren't worthy
Yeah.
of my most precious resource.
Yeah.
So how do we know? I mean, this is a question I ask in the book too. How do we know if what we're spending our time on is worthy of our time?
Oh
And
god. Yeah.
because
In general.
in general,
Yes.
I
Yes.
I mean, this was a real question that I asked to Claire Dieter in the book. I went to a book launch for this author who I love, Claire Dieter. Hi, Claire. Um, she had wrote a book called Monsters, A Fan's Dilemma, and one of the chapters in the book is about women. The most monstrous thing a woman can do is abandon her children.
Mm.
And she talks about some very famous women who abandon their children. And I asked the question, what if you are a woman who's not famous and you abandon your child to be a writer or just a whatever, go to work at a 9 to 5? What
Mhm.
then? What if you're not a bestseller? Right? What if you're not a, Pulitzer Prize winning or Nobel Prize winning person? What then? Is it worth your time, or should you be, spending that? Is your time better spent with your children?
Mm.
And no one can answer that question, of course. But this is what I think about, because the Mother Code, I'm so proud of it, and it's a total success in my mind, but it's not
Mhm.
a New York Times bestseller. So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
how do you make those decisions?
Yeah. Well, doesn't it come back to your personal value system, which will certainly change in different seasons of life? I would love to be able to say the point is to do the work, and the point is to feel fulfilled by it, and the point is to be present with the things that matter to you most. And these outcomes, the trophies that we can't really, that are luck, there's a lot of sweat behind them, but ultimately a lot of luck needs to come together. That's I would love to be able to say that's like the wrong thing to measure these things by. But I think a lot of this, like a lot of, even in the way that the early parts of your book, it's very, you admire the quote winners. I wonder if, as you've now moved into, now you have Clementine and you have this very beautiful moment that I love the way it's written, and I'm sure that's something I would go back to periodically if I were you, and talking about how this idea of kind of mothering, caregive, you found yourself through caregiving. Yes, you also sort of learned how to be a mother. You learned how to love being a mother and all those things. I really liked the piece about kind of coming back to you, or discovering you through the act of caregiving. How has that been sustaining? And then I also am curious if it's interesting because there's caregiving that you obviously did and continue to do with Clementine, but you're also you were prematurely thrown into caregiving roles too with your own mom and your brother. But the takeaway message from both of those seems to be very different. So I was curious if you could talk a little bit about caregiving and identity and sense of self.
Yeah. So many people have asked me, how did or when did I know that I wanted to become a mother? And my answer relates to your question because until I actually became a mother, I didn't know for sure that I wanted to be a mother.
Yeah.
And in the like obviously I had to do a lot of things to get to become a mother. Like there was
Yeah. Yes.
and in my case, by the way, for those who haven't read the book, I had 2 rounds of IVF. I ultimately ended up using donor eggs. There were a lot of things I needed to do. So it's not like I, like, turned around like, "Oh, how did
Totally.
you
You
go?"
were all in.
I was all
Ambivalently all in.
I was all in at that point. But until I actually became a mother, I was like there was always this voice in the back of my head like, am I on the right path? Is this the right thing?"
Mhm.
Um, and so I found this amazing quote, which is, I think, the kind of what you're talking about. Catherine Page Harden wrote this amazing book called The Genetic Lottery. And in it, she talks about that love, the thing we call love, is the process of committing to, caretaking, and yeah, committing to caring for another human. And so
Mhm.
when we have a child and we, change their diapers and do all the things that we do, wake up in the middle of the night, that those things we do are the thing called love. And I really
Mhm.
felt that.
Mhm.
That as the sort of weeks and months went on and I, like, continued to take care of this little being, I
Mhm.
grew to love her more and more.
Mhm.
And, I say somewhere in the book, I was, by that point, 155% sure that I wanted to be a mom, and that relates to the fact that earlier in the book, I say I was only 55%
Mhm.
sure before having a kid. And
Mhm.
then by the end, I was 155%. And
Mhm.
so, caretaking was integral to my, that identity shift, I guess, that transformation.
Yeah.
The caretaking involved with my mother and my brother felt really different and still feels really different
Mhm.
because it's a good question. I don't know that I have a good answer. There's,
Mhm.
a reciprocity in taking care of a child, whether that is their smile or their first I love yous or you putting in the various caretaking efforts and seeing them grow and respond. And I think there's
Mhm.
something to that versus taking care of someone who is ill or, mentally or physically or both. Um, and the sort of and the response and reciprocity that comes from that, I don't
Mhm.
know how to answer that very well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an impossible question. There's
Yes.
probably something related to one, the former sort of happened to you, and there was an element of choice, although you talk a lot about agency and choice in the process of having children, and in a certain way you had agency in places you didn't want to have, like choosing the sex of the kid. um you kind of was like, I'd almost rather not be able to do this, and yet there are other elements of it that you're like very much wish you had more control over. But I guess that is life,
Yeah.
a lot, a giving up of control. And that's motherhood, which you talked about too.
Yeah, and also the taking care of my mom and my brother were things that happened when I was very young,
Yeah.
and wished to be doing things that, in my mind, all the other young people were doing. And
Yeah.
also, I had seen other friends of mine and their relationships with their moms, and I wanted that with my own mother.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
there was, resentment and those kinds of pieces and that. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
I'd say it's complicated.
I'm sure. Yes, yes, as it should be. This is why we write books.
Yeah, exactly. It was
Trying to write our way to clarity.
exactly. I probably wouldn't have written about
Yes, yes.
it.
I am curious if this is also maybe complicated answer, or maybe we just answered it, but the wonderful ambivalence and the honest ambivalence that you had at the prospect of having kids versus the certainty that you seem to have now that this was the right thing. What is different? What were the things that you were unsure of before that you could, if you could sort of go back to yourself and say, here's the certainty that might help you, that 55% initially might actually be higher. And this, to be caveat, this is not a podcast to say everyone should have kids. This is not the point. I just
Yeah.
think it's from a human perspective, how we move through in many, whether it's having kids or otherwise, go from being unsure about something to feeling sure about it. And like the clarity, what are the lessons we can take from that?
Yeah. I was worried that I wouldn't bond with my child, that I didn't have good role models for what love could look like, and
Mm-hmm.
that I wasn't sure if I was up to the challenge,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah.
And now it seems so crazy in retrospect
Mm.
because, like, it I don't wanna say natural because I think that I say in my book a lot, I think that word is used to
Yes.
bludgeon women
Yeah.
into
Yes.
submission.
Oh my God.
It
Yes.
came like it felt in some way like it just like happened that I
Mm-hmm.
loved my child. And I
Yeah.
think part of my worry about bonding was also the fact that she was from a donor egg, and I worried. And by the way, for those that don't know about donor eggs, that meant that and I wrote an essay about this for Spread the Jelly recently. We found
Yes, I saw. Great job.
we like about actually like going through the process of finding the donor that was the right match for us. And yeah,
Mhm.
so go read that essay if you want to know more. But basically we got a batch of eggs from a donor, we mixed them with my husband Rob's sperm, and then implanted one of the embryos inside of me, and I gave birth to a child, Clementine.
Mhm.
So that is the process. So I worried about bonding with her because I thought because she wasn't from my DNA, somehow that would be like impede our bond.
Mhm.
And like that idea like never comes up in my mind. I mean, I want to say like almost never even remember that she's from a donor egg.
Yeah.
And so, like, it never is a thing.
Mhm.
Like, the love and the feeling I have towards her is, like, very, like, natural, spontaneous, whatever word you wanna use. The other thing
Yeah.
I worried about was people, like, other people, strangers. I don't even know who these other people were meant to be, but in my mind, there were all
Mhm.
these people that were going to notice that she didn't look like me because
Mhm.
she wasn't from my DNA, and therefore, there would be almost this imprint of my failure to, have a child on her, like, on her face.
Mhm.
By looking at her, they would recognize that, and that, like, never happened. And if anything, it's been the opposite. People, like, coming up to us at parties or at the playground and being like, "Oh my god, she looks exactly like you," not knowing our story,
Yeah.
and saying, like, she's a mini me and that kind of thing. And
Yeah.
so those kind of worries just, like, didn't come to fruition. And then I mean, this is also true, like, I was like, "What if she's just a jerk?" Like, some kids, like, are just duds. They're just
Yeah.
like I'm, like, half joking, but,
Yes.
like, I see other people's kids and I'm like, I feel very lucky that we have this like amazing child that probably everyone thinks they're very lucky to have the amazing child they have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, yeah. And so
Yeah.
truly, I feel like we just got lucky.
Yeah. I love that because I remember when I had my first, my father-in-law actually asked me, there were questions around other people in our family maybe considering adoption and whether that, what would that would be like, and would you ever really feel like it's your own kid? And I remember within weeks, if not, like I had a newborn on my lap being like, this could be anyone's child and it would be mine. You know what I mean? Like there is, and it goes back to this point of the caregiving element and kind of there's genetics are a thing, but it's also this attachment theory, relationship building that is what creates a mother or a father or a parent connection that's sort of irrelevant who arrives at the door. I'm sure it's not always that easy, so I can't speak for everybody, but I remember thinking that very clearly that this didn't have to genetically be my child. And I'm glad to hear you say that that's been your experience. That's great.
Yes, it's absolutely been my experience. And I mean, and it's so obvious, like, I know that, and I knew that before having a child. Like, I've known people who are adopted. My mom and her sisters were adopted. There's, like, a lot of knowledge, but there's knowledge and knowledge. Like, I knew it intellectually, but still felt, like, unsure if for me, I would be able to bond, and yet, like, it just happened.
Yes, yes. I also think mothers in general will talk about how this sounds really bitchy, but basically like the phrase of like you just don't know until you have a kid. Like there's just you cross over to this other I remember thinking of it as entering a different video game once I had a child where I was like, wow, everyone's been playing this other game this whole time. And I've just been over here, having brunch. But you just don't know. And I wish there was a way to say that without it being dismissive, but it really is. It's a whole different layer of human experience. I've found, and many have reflected this back to me. But a little bit to that point of like the shift that can come with having a child, talked a little bit about identity and kind of how you kind of fit this together with can you be a mother and a writer? Have there been any shifts or, I don't know, broadening of perspectives around a sense of ambition and purpose and what you want out of life and work now that there's this life that you're responsible for?
Yeah, and there's been a lot of conversations, both literary and otherwise, in the world over the last few years about ambition. I'm thinking of the book Ambition Monster by Jennifer Romolini.
Oh, yes, of course. Yeah, we're all we hate ambition.
Another book called Making It Work, which is really great. So I'm a big fan of ambition. I don't know why ambition is a dirty word.
Right.
I feel
because women are saying it.
Yeah, I guess so, because I feel really excited about my life. I feel really excited about my work. I also think I'm lucky. I have to say this. I had my child at 43 years old, which for many is like the wrong time to have a child in quotes because it's late. But for me, I actually think it was the perfect time to have a child. Okay, let's put aside all of the like difficulties of actually getting pregnant and all of that. It was the perfect time because I had, all these years as a journalist behind me. I had started my own business. I had had time to really figure out that I love to write and I want to be an author. And so by the time I had my kid, I then sort of slotted back in to, I mean, I never left. So it's like, it just kept going. Like my kid became part of the flow of my art and my career and everything else. And so my ambition didn't change at all. If anything, it became greater because I think now about my legacy, what I want to leave for her, what I want her to see. And so there was never a sort of lessening or dampening of ambition in my world.
Yeah, I love that. The episode that just came out is this woman who's she's a partner in private equity finance, a different career path, but with meaning for her. And she talks about this being more aware of the opportunity cost when she was a mom, and that wasn't necessarily make sure that I do work that matters. It was really, she was like, if I'm going to be working, I got to be crushing it. Like I need to be performing and delivering on all cylinders, which is impressive. Part of me is like, I'm just tired hearing you talk about
it. Pressure, though.
Yes, of course. Yes. I mean, it very sits within this very comfortable level of ambition on her in that way. But there are other ways of taking that, which essentially, if like I'm going to be doing this, I either want it to really matter, or I want it to prove that it matters, which might be where this annoying trophy, did I win a Pulitzer or not? Like, does that prove that it matters? But there is a way that it's not that we don't want to be doing whether it's truly a career or whatever, sort of delivering work, being productive aside from being part of a family raising a child. It's that those things, we now see them with more clarity, and the reason that we're doing them is a little bit more refined, and we're more maybe intentional. I don't know, or we're really strung out and trying to do too many things.
All of those things are true. And I agree with your other guest in the sense that for me, if I'm going to spend time away from my child, and this isn't always like, I'll say it and then I'll give you caveats. If I'm gonna spend time away from my child, I either want to be making money or like doing something towards work that matters, some kind of calling, meaning like working on another book project or an essay that I think is important to be out in the world, or I want to be connecting with friends and family, or I want to be like doing something for my health or my self-care. I hate that word, but like something that would give me more like bandwidth, or like the gym or whatever it is. So those are kind of the things. But and then the caveats are, I find that the things for myself end up falling off the list. Like going to the gym falls off the list every time. My spending time with Rob, I'm kind of laughing because spending time with Rob's like, he gets the leftovers. Like he but like we try. So, having to always be like reprioritizing and thinking about how to make all those things fit. The problem in my world, and I don't know, Sarah, if you feel this way, is how do you like, not everything can be the same amount of important. So you have to like have a pie, and like right now I feel like everything in my pie is like the same size slice.
Interesting. Yeah. That's interesting. And does that align? There's prioritization, and then there's time allotment. Are those now all the same, or those vary?
Well, in my mind, they're all the same, and so I like run myself ragged trying to like keep all of my metaphors were getting messed up, but like keep it all going. Whereas when I talk to my therapist, it's like, okay, they can't all be the same amount of importance, so therefore your time allotment has to, you have to figure that out.
Yes.
And I've been terrible at that.
Yeah. Well, I will say Clementine is now 6? 5? Okay. Yeah, I think so. Our kids are 11, 9, and 4. And I do think there is the idea of being in the trenches. The beginning is horrible. Like everything is at a lot, like you're behind in every way. It's really hard. At that point, it's just, can you directionally have a sense of where you want to be spending your time? And like more often than not, are you doing that? And are you constantly reevaluating that every 3 hours to 3 months? As they get older and the train gets a little bit back on the tracks, I think this question is a little bit not easier to answer, but you can kind of act on it. You have more control and can be more intentional about how you fill up your day. But I think it's a living, breathing organism, like how we all make this work, and constantly iterating and noticing. And here's therapy back to you. What my therapist talks to me about is you can't be everywhere all the time, obviously. The thing that matters with your kids is actually what you were saying. So I'm just saying what you already know. What you were saying about the importance of being around falling in love and having someone reflect yourself back to you, that is what kids need from their parents. And that doesn't mean you're there all the time. It means that when you're there, do you really see them? Are you really present? Whether that's 3 minutes a day or 3 hours on a Saturday because they got lucky, like, or that's the car ride to a soccer practice, like and that's been actually echoed by a few other smarter than me people that we've interviewed who are like, it's not the time. It sounds so cheesy, but it's not the time, it's the quality of the time. And I sometimes take that to heart and run all the way to the bank when I'm thinking about, theoretically parents today spend an exorbitant amount of time with our children relative to parents of yesteryear. Not that they nailed it either, but I feel like we're all like, we're doing a lot. We can occasionally feel like it's enough.
Yes.
All right. Speaking of time, I wanted to close. We have these sort of 3 short questions that we ask of all of our guests, which is kind of fun to compare and contrast. But the first one is thinking back to your new mom self. If you could go back and tell her one thing, what would it be?
Mm. It would probably be a high five. I know that's not a thing you tell, but a high five. You're doing a good job. You are, maybe also like, this thing isn't going to matter. This thing that you're worried so much about is sort of small fry. I remember I'm like going into a long answer when you ask for a quick thing, but I
No, go.
remember like making like a poop and pee chart and
Mhm.
like for like weeks and weeks, months probably. And the pediatrician finally asked like, why are you doing that? You don't have to do that. And like I was like,
Yes.
"Wait, I made that up?" Like you like I just thought
Mhm.
so like the things that I was so obsessed about, I
Mhm.
think were ways to try to control this thing that felt very out of control,
Oh, yes.
specifically motherhood.
Yes.
And so sort of a high five, you got this, you know, you're enough. You're doing enough.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes. If you could give yourself or your family one thing along the journey of motherhood, I kind of want to ask this question about the journey to motherhood, but the journey of motherhood post Clementine being in the world. Is there anything that or a theme of things that would have made it easier? Not that it's supposed to be easy.
Yeah, I think if I had figured out how to heal myself, love myself, all the things. And I'm not saying I have it figured out now, but if I had
Mm-hmm.
kind of figured out more of it before she was born, that
Mm-hmm.
probably would have made things easier. What I will say is, and I'm not saying like I'm expecting my child to heal me and
Mm-hmm.
like love me. But what I am
Sure.
saying is that seeing the way and feeling the way she loves me has really been so healing in a way I never could have imagined. And that I don't know that I could have found that healing through more talk therapy.
Yeah, I totally get that. The unconditional love and and needing to be needed is like it really is profound to the point of once you're a parent, you'll know. It's something you can't experience until then. Some people, I'm not a pet person. Some people say having a dog is similar, but I don't know. They don't smile. They're not quite as cute as far as I'm concerned. Um, all right. Clementine might one day listen to this. Is there anything you'd like to say to her?
Um, well, in the book, I have a letter to her. Um,
Yes, you do. Yes.
and I end with saying like basically my book, The Mother Code, but also my time mothering her is a testament to the fact that I tried. I was here and I tried. I'm not going to get it perfect. I'm
Mhm.
not going to get it, exactly right, but I just want her to know that I did my best and
Mm.
yeah.
Yes, yes. And she seems to think it's good enough, which is beautiful. Man, early in your book you talk about this like perception of moms and they being a mom is no fun at all. Is there a little bit of fun now, would you say?
Oh my gosh, this is such a good question. I'm so glad you asked because
Mm.
being a mom is so much fun.
Oh, good. Yay.
Nobody I mean, really, truly, I think we have a branding problem.
Yeah.
more than anything, because if I feel like if I had known or like deeply understood how fun it was, not that everything needs to be fun, but like if I had really known how meaningful and how fun it would be, I think I would have tried to do it earlier. I
Yeah.
really feel like, there's so much dread around it. There's so much talk of all the hard parts, and it is hard.
Yes.
But there is so much joy and fun that comes with it as well that we
Yes.
just don't talk enough about. I think because we don't want to sound like jerks because, we're feminists and we want to
Right.
feel like, okay, there's a lot of problems and we want to make sure
Mhm.
we're like centering those, and we should. And
Yeah.
also, it's a lot of fun and that's okay to say.
Yes. Oh, I love that. That's awesome. That very similar spirit behind starting this, because similarly, like the messaging was being a mother is awful, miserable, endless. Not to say that that's not also true, but it's a source of strength and empowerment and clarity and ambition and fun. So it is, yeah, a casual rebrand. I think is in order, which thankfully, Ruthie, you're on it.
You are too. We need all of us. It's a big job.
That's true. We need all the stories. No, it's true. Yes, very true. We need all of the stories. That's the power of it. We need all of them. Well, Ruthie, thank you so much for coming on. It was really great to get to know you even beyond the book. And everyone should go off and read The Mother Code. Much to be learned, whether you care or have any thoughts about having kids or not. Really important. And I love that it's all rooted in ambivalence, which I think is the most natural, honest form of existence. We all want clarity and certainty and 3 steps to success. And I think the truth is it's complicated. So thank you for sharing your story and sharing your time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Sarah.
Aw, Ruthie was so great. Let me go call V.
Hi. How you doing?
Calling you.
Why? What?
I just miss you. You're so joyful.
I love you.
I love that I have to create a business and schedule interviews and debriefs with you in order to stay regularly in touch.
Yeah, that's right. Wait, on a side note, well, semi-related actually. It's a long story, but we made a new friend this weekend at the fair, and
An adult friend or a child friend?
Both. It was 2 parents and their kid.
Oh my gosh, a twofer? They're so hard to find.
Yes, and our son fell in love with their daughter, and now we're like, oh, it's your in-laws, and I'm obsessed with them, and it's fantastic. But I was talking about you, and I didn't even know that I did. But apparently, I said like, oh, my friend. And I was like, well, my former boss. And then when we got in the car, my partner said, I have never heard you call Sarah your former boss. And I was like, did I? And then I had like a whole, like, I was like, no, but I said friend. He's like, yeah. And then you said former boss. And I was like, ew, that's weird. I don't know. So no, I had like a existential crisis about that.
For what it's worth, I've never thought about myself as your boss.
I know, me neither. That's why I didn't even realize.
Don't they say that that's a sign when you've like reached a bad level of fame and celebrity is when you look around, you're like, everyone here is also on payroll.
Oh, sad. No, I think what happened is because then I processed it and I was like, that's weird. But I was following her lead because she was talking about we were both nannies and she said something like, oh, my boss. And so then I was interviewing successfully where I was just like, I think I was following her lead because I wanted to say like in relation to her story, but he still was like, I have never heard you say Sarah's. And I was like,
boss. I'm excited for the jean jacket you're going to make for me that says boss.
Boss mommy.
Oh my God.
No.
Well, here's to friends and twofers and not
to friends, to boss babes and boss moms. Exactly. And on that note, tell me about boss mom Ruthie.
Okay, Ruthie was a joy, a hoot.
Amazing.
I have to say, I think I love all of our guests. I'm sure this is a bias I have. I enjoy interviewing authors.
For sure.
Which we've found quite a few that are interested in our platform, as they should be, because they have like a sense of story and organizing their thoughts and perspectives. So I really liked everything she had to say and found it really deep and meaningful. And also, what I kept saying to her was so honest. So she wrote this book that everyone else listening will know, but you know this too. But the Mother Code, I won't go through it in detail, but the short summary of it, if you had to do one, was basically story of a woman who, like so many women, but we may not talk about it, is like maybe ambivalent about having kids. If not like against or not sure about, basically most of us aren't like, all right, now time to have kids to fulfill my life goal and dream. And so she explores that experience like honestly in a way that is very of the 21st century, that's kind of rife with, I don't know, comparisons and social media and kind of an interest in not celebrity, but what does it mean? Does success and having a meaningful career, is that kind of conflated with getting a trophy at the end of it? Or is there like deeper meaning? Just like in a world where there's so many noise, there's so much noise and so many messages being thrown at us that only got worse in certain ways as social media and the internet like blew up. How do you decide what you really want?
Damn.
And spoiler alert, she loves being a mother.
Hell yes.
Yes, but she went through like all sorts of trials and tribulations, just getting to a place where she could have kids. She was at a certain point thinking of having kids without a partner, which she says, if this happened today, that might have been the path I went down. This all took place from 10 years ago. A lot of IVF, many rounds of like failed IVF, ended up using an egg donor. All the like questions about like who's donating my eggs? Will this child be mine if it's not my egg? And a lot of like trauma, rough childhood, rough mother, a brother has a lot of developmental issues. And so just like a complicated real life story of the messiness of life.
Wow.
And laid bare in a book. So I highly recommend the book. You might actually in particular really enjoy this book.
Yeah. Was this written out of like bibliotherapy-esque, where it's like I'm writing this to like heal myself kind of thing, and in turn what other people could take away from this?
Yes. Well, I think it was, she didn't say that directly, and I almost had that question. I was going to ask that question, but she was like in the middle of a thing. It's sort of implied, yes, because she talked about the other books that she thought about writing, which were confronting like her relationship with her mother, another one about maybe the relationship with her dad or her parents' divorce or her own divorce, relationship with her mother, and then one about her own divorce. There was a divorce before. She now is married to a guy who's the baby daddy. So yes, I think behind that is this suggestion that these are things that she's struggling with, and maybe I can write my way to sort of figuring it out. And even talked about while writing this book, there were some things that she realized about herself. So I think without saying yes to that, she implied yes to that.
She said yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I know. And I feel like my nuggets of takeaways, and then we can extrapolate if interested. One being ambivalence about becoming a mother is totally normal and honest. I think she was like, when I looked around, I feel like everyone just had this clear understanding of like without sort of questioning, like just going off and having kids. And she has realized that was actually not necessarily so true, but that was all the pictures on social media. I feel like, social media now is fucked, and that it is ideally, it really generally shows like you on your best day every day.
Yep.
But I also think there's been a little bit of it's expanded beyond that too. Not that that's what you always see, but I think there are more people like telling the bigger story and the harder story, which is another thing she talked about. We both talked about like in this case, as a woman moving into being a mother, the variety of stories are so limited that it creates this feeling of, if I'm not one of these 5 stories, then something's wrong with me. Or if I don't fulfill those 5 stories, because if they're only 5, they're all these like 4 wild success stories, like becoming a version of a president, running a company, like having 25 children, being a trad wife. Like they're all these extreme examples of quote success. And then there's probably one that's like, it didn't work and it failed. And so like the lack of variety can lead us to all feel like there's something wrong with us, or we haven't lived up to our quote expectations, and the importance of creating and putting more stories like this out there, which is something social media kind of is allowing for, but there's so much shit that comes with it that I don't know.
Not right.
The right solved, but more books. Some of the ambivalence that she had about being a mother. She talks in the book about, she went basically from I don't want to have kids to this idea of like actually maybe I do want to have kids, and in some moment spontaneously was asked like how much, and she said spontaneously like 55% of me.
Oh my God, I love that
And
so much.
yes, and then
55.
once she had her kid, she's like I'm like 155% certain that I want to
Oh,
have kids. And some of the things that she was worried about that were kind of unfounded in retrospect, she talks about one being like she wasn't sure she would have what it takes to be a mom,
mhm,
like that it just seems so hard.
mhm.
And then kind of a concern about the impact to her career. We talked about this at the very end, and I wish we'd talked about it almost earlier, but the idea that it just looks like moms don't have fun. Like when she looked around, she's like, it looks
Sure.
like just miserable.
Yes. Well,
And then
like the
she was like,
chapel thing, right? When she was like, I don't know
oh,
any
right, the
mom
chapel
that's
rowing
having.
thing.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's such
And
a common, like, observation and thought process. That's so valid. Like when you're
yes.
not, yeah.
Yes. And dear V and dear listeners, she says being a mother is so fun.
Oh, it
So
is.
she was like, yes, she was like sincerely like, it's so fun. She's like, not that everything in life needs to be fun, but she's like, we both agree. We're like mothers and motherhood and all these things need like a rebrand because it's really not so
Totally.
bad.
No,
And it's really
totally.
fun.
Yes. Oh,
Yes. And
oh,
then I
I
think the
love that.
last piece was rooted in a lot of her childhood and a lot of her parenting experience with her kids and a lot of her kind of experience falling in love. We talked about like in some ways she was always seemed very sure that she wanted to be a writer, but kind of everything around that was very clouded by all of the other expectations that are like she kept talking about we're told to be X or we're told to do
Mm-hmm.
Y. And that sort of there are all these messages towards women and mothers, whatever, about who we're supposed to be. And I think it took her a long time to figure out who she really wanted to be and how, in my read of her book, there's some way that when she finally sort of this sounds so cheesy, but cheesy because maybe it's one of the truer stories of human life, is once she met her person, this guy
Mm-hmm.
Rob, around that same time, who knows cause and effect, but she kind of became more fully herself. And there was
Yep.
kind of a stepping into the real Ruthie, as opposed to who Ruthie feels like she should be.
Mm-hmm.
And in that is rooted like this importance of being seen and having your like best true self reflected back to you. And that's
Oh,
so important in a partner, also so critical in parents. And I think something that she, and I think a lot of us feel like they didn't quite get from their parents of being, like good mirrors.
mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Oh, damn.
hit on a lot of good stuff.
Truly. What a
Mhm.
spectacular. Wait, is this her first book about motherhood or is her
Yes.
prior? Okay.
It's her first book. I also noticed she was just posting on all the social medias to the thing that we hate, talking about how she was, I don't know if the word is option. She'd sold a prior book that in a horrible turn of fate, they rescinded the deal essentially.
Oh,
So that was a prior book. So now this is the book so far.
okay, amazing.
She
Incredible.
also does a lot of coaching. She started like a business around helping other writers at various stages, like coach them on their various projects.
I
So
love
she has a
that.
couple of things going.
You mentioned her like she wasn't sure if she wanted to be a mom or what that would look like or if she wanted to do that. And
Yeah.
I think that that's like a conversation that we don't like talk about frequently enough because like of course there's the people that are like I was born to be a mom and I just knew from a young age that I wanted to be a mom and I want 10 kids, and as they continue to have kids they're like yes, this is definitely right, I know, versus like I always had like personally I always had maternal instincts and have always cared so much about like children and having kids and being in the like birth sphere, but I wasn't sure that that was going to be like my personal journey. And there definitely was like shame and more just like fear of judgment, I guess, from other people. Like I remember someone specifically saying to me when I said, I don't think that I'm going to have kids, saying that would be such a waste of like your talents, and then feeling like well fuck, like does that mean I have to have a kid, like what does that mean, like I don't know, and then feeling guilty for that, and like I don't know. I think I respect her so much for being able to speak on that and being like, yeah, I didn't know. And even still, when I decided, it was 55%, which is like, I don't know. Like, I totally get that. Like, I don't know. You know that you were you were the second person that I called after I found out. And I was like, I don't know. Like, if I want to do this or if I'm ready to do this. Ultimately, having the kid was the thing that was like, oh, shit, of
Yeah.
course. But what an important conversation to have, and like that vulnerable admission of, what if I don't know? What if I don't know if
Yeah.
this is my journey? That's hard.
Yes. Yes. And she said, I wasn't sure if I could be a writer and a mother. And now she's like, I am.
Bitch, I'm doing both. Yeah. She's like, I want to write about mother. I love
Yes.
it. Aw.
Yes. Alrighty. I have some ideas for you.
Okay.
How are we on joy right now?
Joy is
Joy cup.
Joy is high. It's been like a busy couple days, lots of transitions of like taking on new roles and in job situations. And the boy started daycare. So it's like a big transition period, but ultimately fantastic, and things are so good. So my joy is high. Particular joy moment is that we made a couple friend who has a daughter who is the same age as our son. And we met them at the fair because the two kiddos were like hanging out. They just like started walking to each other and then just like played. So then us parents were chatting, and then we hung out the next day. We got together at a new coffee shop, and it was awesome, and it like felt really nice. So
That's such a quick follow-up friend moment.
no,
Good
it's
job.
fantastic, and now we're buddies, and it's great.
Oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I feel like finding friends as an adult with the kids, follow-up is key. 'Cause I feel like we'll leave the
100%.
playground often and be like, they seemed awesome, but like,
Will we ever
you don't
see them
actually
again?
follow up with
Yep.
exchanging phone numbers and like making a plan. So
Yeah. No, it's awesome. It was great.
who knows?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's fantastic. My joy, I feel like I have a worky one and then I have a funny mommy one. Okay, worky real quick. I don't know when this episode will officially come out, but in the real timing of this, yesterday I spoke with a guy who is going to try to take over the editing of our episodes. So I
Okay.
have to spend 85% of my week editing these episodes, which I mean, in the beginning, I really enjoyed because I was like learning a new thing, and that's fun and satisfying. And now I'm like, oh my God, can I just
I already learned.
give someone else this because it takes up so much time and it takes away from revenue generating activities and other forms of writing and all the things and building. But he seemed awesome. He's also a British dude, former BBC, NPR long timer. And oh my gosh,
cool.
he's gonna hear this now when I send him the episode. So appreciate you.
Love you.
You may have saved my life. That's amazing. So I feel like I feel relief. I feel so much relief just at the process.
Yes.
Hopefully it's working.
Love.
Okay, and then the funny mom thing that I really enjoy. We talk about this a lot, V, where it's like in the world of motherhood, and it's true in other places, but you just see it more clearly here. There's this sense that everything is so temporary and time passes and you'll never get that fill in the blank back. Like that'll never happen again. And yet it also gets better moving forward. So you're like always kind of saying goodbye to something and then, but also growing into another phase that is equally good, if not better.
Yeah.
And I feel like that happened in the last few weeks where our oldest is applying for something that requires him to take stupid standardized tests and work on math. And so I've had the chance to like sit and do math with him, which sounds so
at the kitchen table, and you're not going to yell at him.
Yes. And I can't tell you first, because it's all about me, what a confidence booster to be doing 5th grade math and be like, fuck yeah, I know how to do this. I got
long division immediately. Yes.
Why are you an idiot? You don't know how to solve for X?
Oh.
I'm just kidding. No, it's nice to be like, oh my God, I like learned something, and like just literally like scratching your brain. Because how often do I do math anymore?
Turns out you learned it in 5th grade so that you could teach your son in 5th grade.
So selfishly, confidence builder. But more importantly, and like the realer part is like how it's fun to like teach your kids stuff. And I feel like I haven't really been able to teach our kids. Like we do sports around each other, but it was not the same. There was something really nice about this. And also the opportunity to make what brought me so much anxiety, aka
Yes.
school and schoolwork, like to
Not
try to
like
make
a
it
stressful
fun.
thing. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's really beautiful. What? I love
I
that.
know.
Also,
I
like,
know.
so healing because think about, I mean, at least for me, like, I have such negative memories of those experiences of like
Yes.
my dad being like, I don't understand, like, getting so frustrated with me. And like, I'm always like,
No.
I'm a dumb idiot. I don't know. Like, why
I
is this so
know.
hard? So, what a beautiful thing to be able to like reclaim that. I guess that is parenthood in a nutshell. Is like, how do we like heal our traumas from growing up while probably simultaneously creating new ones, but hopefully not.
Yes. That is.
So, oh,
Yes.
I
Yes.
love that.
I know. Well, TBD. Let's see if he does well.
I'm sure he's gonna get 100%.
It's nice either way. I really don't care. I feel like also there's so much learning that goes into like taking accountability for
Yes.
spending time to do it and like
Oh.
following through. So there's so many other. It's beyond the grade. You know what I mean?
I love that. Yes.
So, yeah, that's
Aw.
fun.
Hell yeah. Okay, mathematician.
And you'll hear her, and you'll hear his
And
version
then-
of the story another time on the next
He's like,
episode. Where he's
"My
like,
mom-
she's a terrorist. I'm so stressed doing this.
My mom, first of all, couldn't figure any of the problems out, and then she taught me it wrong. And then you're like, I nailed it. And he goes into school and he's like, well, my mom taught me how to do it this way, so I don't know.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good. I love
know,
that.
It's been fun. So it keeps getting better.
I
And
love
other
this
things
for us.
break down, but that was good.
Amazing. Thriving. Look at us.
I know. Well, you're a hero. I've gotten some nice feedback on our phone call debriefs.
Nuh-uh.
Mostly, I really enjoyed the sound effects that preceded. I can't tell you how excited I was to be like, it sounds like a phone call. And it sounds like,
Just call me Julia. What?
but yeah, anyway,
Amazing.
we're doing great things. Look at us
I love
evolving
this, and
trying
I
new
love
things.
us. And
I love us too.
fans and followers do have, we don't have it scheduled yet, but we will be returning to our one-on-ones at some point.
Yes.
So
A few Sarah V Gab fests for sure.
y'all
There's
need
so many
it.
things to unpack. I just watched the second season of Platonic, which I love.
Wait,
Lots of
I will watch
recurring
that
themes.
too.
Watch it because we should talk about it.
Okay, great. Love this.
What was it? Oh, Wayside. Also
Wait,
deep
wait.
mothers and motherhood. Yes.
Oh, wait, no. Wait, Wayside?
Wayside.
Which one is
Not
this?
Wayside. Was it?
I started watching
Wayward.
Wait, are you talking about Wayward?
I'm talking about Wayward. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Glorious, because I'm watching it on my own because I could not find anyone to watch it with me.
Oh.
So I mean,
Perfect.
here's the thing. Terrible acting, but I fucking love
Toni
it.
Collette is amazing, though. I always love her.
Yeah, she is. But like, yeah, I tried to watch it. My partner was way too critical and said that he was tapping out and that he was just going to Google it and read what happens. And so I am in it by myself. But now I'm in it with you. Yay.
Oh my God. You got your boss right here.
How many episodes are you in?
I
Where are
finished
you
it.
at? Oh,
I've watched the
stunning.
whole thing. So,
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we'll tee that one up. We have so
Yeah,
much.
fucked up parenthood shit. I'm here for it.
Yes,
Let's go.
Yes.
Aw.
In the woods too. It's like
I
the
know, it
perfect
really
thing.
is spooky dooky, huh? I'm like, like it's
gosh,
not even I don't know. What would you consider that? It's like thrillery, I guess, huh?
So I think of it as like a psychological.
Yeah, psychological thriller.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. With like, I feel like when I hear thriller, I hear more like, oh my God, they're going to be like physical chases.
I'm excited to dive into this with you. Fantastic.
Me too.
Amazing.
Fantastic. All right.
Yay.
Well, you're a hero. Congrats on everything.
I love you.
I love you. Thank you so much for joining us. Please remember to like and subscribe so you don't miss an episode and we can reach even more rock stars like you. The Mothers is a production of Backline Media, shining a light on those who carry the team.